but long before that, acting, I've jumped in time about 5 or 6 or 7 years. Well, going back in time to where I had the attic set up as the studio space because I couldn't use the basement, and I had to live in the middle part of the house, and I wanted to set things up and leave them. So that ladder, I actually bought it for just that purpose, getting
Really?
into that attic.
Wow.
And it was just, straight up. Luckily, it was a very tight space, so if you fell, you had lots to reach out and grab onto. But it was straight up and down. That ladder, because it had to be tall enough to get up there. And it was tall enough, but it just barely got in the house and up in there. And it was just, if it was just a little bit longer,
Wouldn't have made it.
I would have had to use a saw or something to get it in, and then it wouldn't have been tall enough to do the job. And there's no power up there. There was a crack in the ceiling that I ran a cord through. Terrible idea, but
Holy man.
and for the walk, Curtis was up there doing his bass parts, and there were like 13 bass parts for that solo part. Very neat, Nightmare to mix, very neat. But he was up there, and he was like, he was always into. He came from a background of dabbling like magic stuff and candles and stuff. And by the time I had met him, he was actually involved with the church and
Oh, wow.
claimed to have that all behind him. But he was still very loved the look of it and everything and all the trappings of it, which is why this album was originally called A Time of Magic. It was kind of on his inspiration, and then I kind of threw that out as I became less and less comfortable with it as time went on. But he wanted to be up in that attic, and he wanted, hey, I need some candles and incense, and I need to, it's like ceiling insulation made out of sawdust and paper lining. No.
Yeah, not a good idea.
I gave him a flashlight and a bottle of air freshener and took away the ladder and locked him up and said, good luck. And I recorded his solos with that. He seemed happy with the air freshener.
There was 13 tracks of bass.
Yeah, on the solo on the walk, which you also play on.
13 tracks of bass. Holy shit.
Yeah, it was, it made, well, no, it didn't make sense at the time, but it was, you see what it was, is he had that bow and the bass.
Right, I
and he
remember
was, so we were kind of,
Oh, yeah.
we were looking for the magic track of that, but
Right.
the magic track really didn't materialize, so it ended up kind of composing the solo in the mix by using all the various takes and melding them
Right.
together and
Yeah.
panning, whatever. It's very neat nowadays.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I literally spent years trying to decide what to do with it.
Wow.
And also how to get, I mean, bass is kind of tough to mix in the first place, let alone 13 basses that all have to be audible at once. It's neat. Nothing I'd ever want to do again, but it's a neat thing to do once.
Yeah,
And
that's
never
right.
again. But I remember the walk at the end of that. At the time, I had this bizarre rhythm in mind for the end. And I remember you actually just kind of gave up at the end, and it's like, I don't know what you want. I don't get it. I don't know what to do. I can't. Yeah.
I said that?
There's something to that effect. It was, at
I
the
usually
time.
don't. I'll usually get something. I get something out of it, but maybe I did it and I did it a bunch of different ways, and then I said, that's it. That's all I can do, the different ways. I can't imagine giving up, though.
It also might have been that my guide track was all over the place, but it was like it was 2 bars of 4, so it was like 4, 4, and then it was like 3, 3, 3 or something like that. Then it was back to like 4, 4, and then 3, 3, 3.
Oh, okay, that could have made me quit. Yeah, I have a policy on time chains. They have to be written down. If you can write them down, I can play them. If you can't write them, I'm not going to play them.
But But in one of the remixes, that got chopped up and thrown out, and now it's steady and better for it. I mean, who knows? It might have worked out if I had a better plan for everyone involved in it, and if I had what I imagined actually worked out before. I had a bad habit at that time of just getting things set up and just, be it Mike or Curtis or yourself. It's like, well, here it is. You do your thing with it. I'm just going to sit back and record. I
Set it up and then see what's going to happen.
see what happens, which I guess at the time I thought to do any more would be interfering with the performer. But I kind of realize now that, especially if you're throwing into someone into something they've never heard before, haven't had a chance to study, you really want them to have as solid a foundation as possible to do their magic on top of. So that means, have your charts in order, have your things written out for them. Just have everything they may or may not need just there. If they're actually a part of the project, working with you day after day on it, sure, then they can go away and study things on their own. They can be expected to do that. But, this attic thing was more like a session thing. I mean, it was made out of Band-Aids and duct tape. And
You got something out of it, though. That's the biggest thing is the desire, right? If you have a desire to do it, then that's... As soon as you have a desire, then you have a swing at it. It doesn't say you can, but without the desire, you definitely won't get anything.
Yeah. It was... when you were up in the attic, and I don't remember, but were we communicating just through, was I just yelling up at you or what?
I think so. I think so. That works. I mean, hey.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't think you had a talk back mic on that.
Did I at one point have a screen up there?
Yeah, I think you. I remember there was because I'm pretty sure you did.
But that was later.
That might not have been in the attic. That might have been in the kitchen because I wanted a screen to kind of show me where the bridges were and.
But I think at a certain point I started trying that out.
Yeah, you did. I know you did that at one point. I'm not sure whether it was. I don't think it was in the attic though. I think that was in the kitchen.
Yeah.
You would probably know how long was the longest VGA cable you had.
Well, that was maybe one of the few smart things I did was put the computer in one room, and then wireless stuff wasn't like it is today. So I had to go to the computer store and spend some money and get those really long. I needed a cable for the mouse, for the keyboard, and for the monitor. And then getting a second monitor to put up there. I guess that's what I did. I mean, monitors were really expensive back then, so I can't imagine having too many of those just lying around.
Clunky too, all glass.
I think these were the early days of the flat screen, but they were expensive, so I can't imagine I had a lot to go around. Boy, it's funny. I can't remember what I was using. I remember you mentioning that you had the screen, so you saw the DAW, the software, and you saw all the markers that I had on the guide track.
Right.
And I remember you saying that really, really helped.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
So you could see it coming, so you know if you're going into a bridge or you're moving into the chorus, or you know where the changes are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny thing is I was recording a bunch of songs. I was because at this time I was trying to record really everything I had, at least as much of it as possible. All the songs that I felt were finished, I was trying to record them because, well, it was, and I was right. You have seasons, and seasons come, seasons go. So while sun is shining, make hay, as the old saying goes.
Yeah.
And so I was, I think I was also eager to have recordings out there on the internet because I envisioned as we play shows, we want to also have music available for people just to hold on to. So I was also thinking about it at that. But it was also, I think I also did that much recording because that was around the time Curtis stopped showing up. Saul Goodman. Saul, he was, after we had finished with Reeve, he had, for some reason, he had something to do with the woman he got involved with, but he just, he really, you know, if you talk to him on the phone, he'd talk for hours and he'd tell you about all the great things he'd do next time he was over and what have you, and he was always saying he'd be there. But you never knew whether or not he'd be there. And whenever we did play a show, he'd never want to show up for practice and just really thought he could just show up and play the show. And so I was stopped booking shows as often because I didn't know if he was going to be there. And even if he was he going to be prepared for it? So I became really nervous playing shows because I didn't know what the deal with him was. And I also thought he'd turn around and kind of come back to the way things were in the first months where he was there all the time. So because there weren't shows to be, as many shows to be playing anymore, I was filling up that time with recording. So part of the reason why I did so much was recording was I didn't know what the deal was with Curtis, whether or not he'd be showing up or not. That was kind of, and this was a wrong decision. I should have just moved on from him, but I didn't. I wasn't sure about him, so shows were kind of became rare, but I was recording, I think every week. It was either you or Mike coming down, and I got, I recorded tons and tons of songs, and they worked out better with you than they did with Mike. And I think that's because with Mike, I was recording the heavy stuff, the punk, the metal themed stuff. And with you, if it was a little more open-ended, not quite acoustic, but a little more space, you seem to do better with it. And also when it comes to mixing, my drum mic setup was terrible. And to cut through the mix, a lot of the heavy stuff that I would end up recording well on Show Your Blood. So I was recording the Show Your Blood songs, but they weren't being recorded well yet. But those mics, every drum needed its own mic, and it needed to be close mic'd, and it needed to be close mic'd well so it could punch through the mix. If it wasn't, then when you added on the heavy guitars and stuff, you just everything became very mushy. But if the guitars didn't need to be that heavy, and if the sound had a lot more space in it, then if the drums weren't mic'd up all that perfect, it was fine. You could work with it. It still could sit in things as long as you didn't have that big grinder sound kind of taking up all the room.
Yeah.
And that's partially why yours survived. I mean, the stuff with Mike, most of it got thrown out, and Mike would re-record it when we did the Show Your Blood album. But yours, not everything. And maybe someday the whole thing of it will be get fixed in the mix. Or maybe I'll just re-record it, as I probably should have. You know, why I didn't just re-record it is a whole other question.
That's what you have. What's availability, right? So
Yeah.
if you have the tracks that are, you're going to work them. If you have the place to record more tracks easily, because all those setups were not a permanent thing with you. Everything had to kind of go in and out, and it wasn't really that permanent. I guess the attic was in a sense, but all your recording, the computer and all that was in the kitchen, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so that's you have to tear it down. It's different. It's a big commitment to have a recording space available at any at any time.
Yeah, especially if you're dealing with live drums. The live drums are the gorilla in the room.
That's the one that usually is the trouble. Yeah. All these studios around, which is great. Everybody's got a studio in their basement almost, or a bedroom, but not a lot of rooms for drums. Not a lot of live recording drum setups.
Yeah, and but I mean, in the present day, it's nice to have those recordings because it doesn't sound like anything that some of the like the MIDI drum programs nowadays, they've gotten really good.
Oh yeah.
And they're really good at recreating that pristine studio sound.
Yep.
But that's not what I captured. I did not capture the pristine studio sound. I captured a great performance from you, or a series of great performances, but the sound of it was just nothing that you'd get out of a MIDI program anywhere.
No.
And for good reason, but it makes it really unique, gives it its own sound. A Time of Madness sounds like nothing else because of that, and that's really cool. That's really cool to have that.